When you walk up to the vehicle with the key, it has the full proximity key system, and it senses the key at a certain point and it starts turning on lights. So the front lights here are on and the tail lights are now on. When I hit the unlock button, interior lights turn on. When the vehicle's running and I put the headlight switch to the off position, even when I engage the parking brake, these exterior lights will not turn off here on the front, these white bright lights, and they could potentially be mistaken as headlights. But there's no tail lights on, there's no other lights, just these very bright LEDs here on the front. Now I had the parking lights on, and it's basically those same white lights, and they are pretty cool looking. They have a little style to them, kind of in this very high position. Bright LEDs here in the front. There's also the amber side marker now illuminated with the parking lights here in the front. In addition to the side marker, red side marker, the tail lights also wrap around to the side of the vehicle. And the tail lights, when you kind of look close, they kind of have a little bit of a design to them. Pretty neat. Turn the brightness down so you can see, hopefully. But they are red in color. They kind of look a little orange with the camera because it kind of blows them out because they're fairly bright tail lights here. Tag lights now on. The turn signal here on the front is amber in color, and it's a standard bulb, so it's a halogen bulb in there. And you notice that the white light is now turned off when the turn signal's on. So it's only on this side here. The other side is still illuminated, but because I guess the LED is brighter than the turn signal, so it might obscure it. Turn signal indicator here on the side mirror. It's visible from the front, the side, and the back. It's not super bright, but it's a little bit brighter this way. And then the turn signal indicator here in the back is amber in color, and it's once again a halogen bulb. So you have that fade in, fade out effect. And it's a different color, so it's amber instead of red, so it stands out. It's not super bright, but it does stand out pretty good. The third brake light is at the top of the glass, and you also have the reverse lights, white reverse lights, which are integrated into the tail lights as well. So you can see some light is actually on the ground in front of the vehicle when I have the lights completely off. So let's go ahead and turn on the low beams. You can see quite a bit of a difference there. And the low beams are down here, lower on the bumper, and it's a multi-reflector. So it's a multi-reflector system here. And it's mostly the outer portions here. Then the inner portion joins in for the high beams. We'll see that in a second. And these kind of overlap. All these separate reflectors overlap and have a focused beam, as much as you can anyway. And then it has a cutoff that's kind of high. So right up here, I can look directly at the headlights. When I dip down to about 4 feet, I'm already starting to get some brighter lights. When I go down further, all the way down here, which is about 2.5 feet off the ground, then it starts to get the full brightness. So it has like this transition effect here, instead of just a clear cutoff. Let's turn on the high beams. And the high beams, basically the same lights here, except for that inner portion of the reflectors right in here is now illuminated. And I like the way it has an additional light that adds to the other lights. That way we have more light, not just refocusing the same light. Cargo light is, I would say, adequate, I guess, but could be a lot better. There's a single dome light, not super bright, and it just kind of mostly illuminates here in the center. It does have a little bit of light here on the sides, so that's why I say it's adequate, because it does cast a fairly even light across the cargo area. But I think it's just the brightness mainly, but also having it more than one light might be better in this case. But you know, it does a halfway decent job, surprisingly. It just needs to be a little bit brighter, so I'd probably change the bulb to make it a little bit brighter. The inside of the rear door does not have any kind of puddle light or anything. There's no pocket lights or anything here or here. The only light is for the window, just so you can find the window switch. The lights here in the back has one on each side of the sunroof, and it's fairly subtle, not super bright, and I think they intended it that way. It does an okay job, but you know, the brightness is an issue. I think that if they were to have some kind of floorboard illumination or some additional light here or there, or some kind of light that you can turn on or off to help out, I think it would be a little bit better. Now we do have some backlit buttons, or backlit USB ports, and then the controls for the climate control back here. That's all illuminated. Inside of the front door, there's no puddle light or anything. There's no pocket lights. We do have some backlit buttons here, but the presets for the seats are not backlit. Then the lights are coming from the very center part, and it's a little bit brighter up here, surprisingly. Okay, so I have the interior lights on, and let's go ahead and turn those off. See what we're left with. Have the backlit buttons there on the door. To the left of the steering column, that's where the dimmer switch is. We'll see that in a second. Steering wheel has some buttons, mostly backlit. There's a little scroll wheel here that could have some kind of light, but you can feel it. It's okay, but you don't see it now. And the stock here for the headlight switch is not illuminated, but when you start turning it, it shows here on the screen what you're doing. So that kind of helps out. The screen looks really good. Camera system looks good. It illuminates, it kind of brightens everything up. It's hard to see because of the camera here. My camera, there we go. That's looking pretty good. Even when it's not super dark where I'm at right now, but you know, it does a good job of illuminating, or not illuminating, but just kind of increasing the brightness around you on the camera system. Navigation has a, it looks pretty good. I mean, you can have this view, or you can have the satellite view, and there's a lot of details, you know, so it's kind of neat. But at nighttime, all those little details, it's kind of far away. So if I zoom in like that, then you know, if it basically just stays there, and when I hit recenter, it pulls out. So although it looks really good, but when you're sitting back here, some of the details gets a little lost at nighttime. Okay, so we have the backlit buttons here. The volume for the stereo, or the radio, the volume knob is not illuminated, but you know, if you know right where it is, you can find it. Then you have the buttons here. And this is pretty cool. It has like this accent light right here around the cell phone charger. USB ports there. There's the start button. The shifter has illuminated gears. And then these buttons here. I'm going to turn on the interior lights so you can see. Cup holders are not illuminated. This center compartment is not illuminated. Just completely dark. Without the interior lights on, it's like a black hole. But interior lights do help out a lot in this case. Same thing with the glove compartment. No interior light whatsoever. So at nighttime, not all that great. Now it does have the manual or the automatic dimmer for the rearview mirror. It works okay. And then the interior lights, the lights are backlit, so the buttons for the lights are backlit, which is nice. Some vehicles don't illuminate those lights, but you have lights for the driver, passenger reading lights, all the interior lights, and then the sunroof and all that's illuminated. The visor does have a light when you open this up, and if you accidentally leave it open like that, it closes automatically when you lift it up. So this compartment under here, it's kind of hard to see it, but it's under here, and it has a subtle light. It's dark in there, but so when you put stuff in there, you can kind of see it. It's not super bright light, but you can see in there. There's no floorboard illumination either, so WC actually wore white shoes, and but there's no floorboard illumination. Here's the headlight pattern on a fence. There's the high beams, there's the low beams. So you can see it, the cutoff looks pretty straightforward for this angle. We'll see how it looks like going down the road. The low beams has a shadow that lines up with the oncoming lane, and as we go down this hill, we should be able to see it. So right in here, you can see it's a little bit of a the cutoff is a little bit lower. Yeah, you can see it right there. It's not super defined, but there is a little bit of a lower cutoff on the oncoming lane. But you know, depending on like going up and down hills like right now, that cutoff seems a little bit high, so it might be giving a little bit too much light on the oncoming cars. But that shadow on the oncoming lane is supposed to help out with, you know, the deviations and also wet roads, glare, stuff like that for the oncoming drivers. Okay, so now we're going into some darker roads here, and we'll see how it performs. Okay, so there's the low beams, there's the high beams, and yeah, they're not wowing me, but I mean, I can see pretty decent. The low beams projects on the side of the road. In the middle of the road, that shadow is a little bit not defined, so it kind of has a little bit on my lane, that shadow. But the high beams there, yeah, I can see pretty good. I can see the trees in the distance. It's not overly bright. I think the pattern is somewhat okay, but as far as like overlapping the lights enough to where it's not patchy, but it could be a little bit brighter. I mean, this road has the trees off the road, so it's a little bit more challenging for the average headlight system to project the lights, because you do have to, you know, they have to go further in order to shine on the trees and stuff. But yeah, I can see pretty good. I would say these are kind of mediocre, not high-end headlights. They're adequate, I would say. Once again, adequate headlights. But the brightness, if the brightness was just a little bit higher, then I think it would be a little bit better. So right in here, you can see the guardrails are closer, so you can see they're illuminated properly. So it's just the distance is a little bit challenged because of the brightness. That's the high beams. That's the low beams. Yeah, and I have the camera turned up a little bit as far as the brightness, so you can see the pattern. It probably is going to be a little bit brighter on camera than what I'm seeing, but yeah, I think these are okay. You know, they're just mediocre. They're not excellent headlights or anything like that, but they're not inadequate. You know, I can see pretty good. There's some vehicles it's like, you know, this could be a problem, but this one I can see okay. I can see as I'm driving around. I got high beams, low beams, and all that stuff. Looks good, and doesn't appear to be, you know, blinding other cars and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say these headlights are okay. You know, some vehicles just are like really impressive, but this one's just kind of in that medium range. So hopefully that's been helpful.